This is Kathy Neifeld with Agency One, and our webinar today is to introduce to you the exciting new John Hancock Protection IUL product featuring the Annexus PRISM Booster. Our featured speakers today are Zach Barron, who is the Director of Competitive Services for John Hancock, and Alan Zuckerman, who is the National Life Specialist with the Annexus Group. Zach Barron is responsible for delivering comprehensive analysis and consultation on critical cases, researching and understanding industry-wide products, and positioning John Hancock's innovative product portfolio. And we're also, as I said, pleased to have with us Alan Zuckerman from the Annexus Group. You've heard from Alan before on the various Annexus products that Agency One is pleased to have in our product portfolio that we can offer to you. Alan leads the IUL life insurance products unit of Annexus, and he is an expert in development and marketing. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Zach and Alan. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat or raise your hand, and we will address them. And there will also be time for Q&A at the end of this webinar. For those of you that are wondering if it's being recorded, it is. And so you'll be able to come back to it. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Zach. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks so much, Kathy, and thanks everyone for joining us today and ahead of the weekend here to get some product intelligence. So happy to be here. We're really excited about the partnership we've been able to achieve with Annexus, really on making sort of our flagship product, our Protection IUL, which has been a leader in the protection-oriented IUL space, even better, really just offering more client solutions, more potential crediting options that can really fit in for what clients need. So we're really excited about that. So with that, I'll jump right in. So I'll sort of kick it off and then I'll turn it over to Alan. But just want to talk about Protection IUL, where it fits in the market to start. Again, I sort of mentioned it is our flagship product. It's been our top selling product for a number of years. It's really a space we're sort of committed to, that protection-oriented IUL space. So really, it brings a lot to the table already, I would say, and really we're just making it better with this partnership with Annexus. Again, it's the #1 selling death benefit product in this IUL space. Again, it's getting even better with some additional options we're adding here, which Alan will talk about. We also do, as a carrier, have a long-standing track record in the IUL space. We have proven results. I'll talk a little bit about that, but really just driven by our strong general account. Passing that back to clients and really doing a good job sort of maintaining and sort of delivering value for clients on IUL products. We have a suite of living benefit options, long-term care options, whether it's long-term care, chronic illness, whether they want indemnity or reimbursement. We really have a strong platform there if you're looking for sort of low-cost death benefit protection, but also to address a long-term care need potentially in the future. We have a number of options to help meet that need. And then really just as a carrier, I think we're sort of leading the way in innovation and offering unmatched benefits really with our Vitality program. That's certainly something that no other carrier can offer. But for those clients who want to engage in the policy, want to live longer, healthier, better lives, we have that platform that can do that and pass it through with more value on our insurance products as well. So I'm going to jump in and just show a couple of examples here of where our Protection IUL fits. Then just a couple sales concepts, I guess, as well, sort of how they fit. So here's an example. This is a male 55 standard. I think sort of as a carrier, we're typically known for sort of the top 3 risk classes. But our Protection IUL can be really competitive at standard as well, or even substandard risk classes. It's really competitive on single pays, which is what we see here. So really sort of towards the top of the chart. And then I'm just going to click here and see that if we add Vitality, we can really lead the way on premium solves. Again, this is if they engage at a gold status, which is really easy to achieve. And I'll talk a little bit more about vitality in a couple slides here. But really can lead the way on single pays. That's really where this product is sort of its niche is sort of for shorter single pay solves, and really significant guarantees as well. Again, I think we were slightly behind Pacific Life if they don't engage in vitality, but we have a much longer guarantee. I think most clients would probably skew towards that anyway. But with vitality, if they do engage, there's even more potential for premium savings there. Significant guarantee. I do think those guarantees also really marry well with the Nexus with the S&P Prism story, particularly the booster. Alan will talk a little bit about that in a couple slides here. But obviously, guarantees do matter on protection solves. Really hitting what we're illustrating and making sure you get positive returns on an IUL is really important. So again, I think the boosters are really a good fit for that as well, delivering those sort of consistent positive returns on a protection product and really achieving what we're illustrating. And one thing as well, so Pacific Life was a little bit ahead of us there. Again, if we don't engage in vitality, and I talked a little bit about this at the start, but just our track record on IUL, I really want to highlight that a little bit here. Not only have we had really strong returns on our IUL products going back to our original IUL product, which is our IUL 11, which launched in 2011. But we've also done a really good job on maintaining our caps, having that stability on those cap rates. We see here, this is our IUL 11 product compared to it's actually our AIUL product. But again, doing that for a number of other carriers as well. And our renewal cap on that IUL 11, 9.25, 9.25. That's pretty in line with our 24 product, our current product, which is about at 9.5. Most other carriers, as we've seen interest rates sort of spike up, we've really seen them, I guess, sort of prioritize new business over in-force customers. Some of them might have gone to sort of new money portfolios. That's not something we've done. We've really treated our in-force and new business customers, I would say, equitably. So that doesn't always mean you have the exact same cap, but again, you're seeing a lot of the same benefit from interest rates going up. That IUL 11 product back in March did get an increase to its cap rate, so it's up to 9.25. It went up 50 basis points. Most carriers on their in-force products, those older products, might be in the 7 or 8% range. Lincoln, I'll sort of say that their products, some of their older products are a little bit lower. I think that's something that really sets us apart. Really, the biggest thing with IUL and specifically protection-oriented IUL is making sure you have that stability, making sure you're able to hit what is illustrated. Again, I think the boosters are a really good example that should be able to help with that. But even on some of our older in-force, that's really important to maintain those parameters. That's really going to help drive value for customers over the long term. And that's something that really sets us apart, I would say, in the IUL space. Another example here, this one is a female preferred 65 paying out for lifetime. So I mentioned, this product is really, really competitive for single pays, short pays. This one is paying for a longer duration. So we see we're very competitive here. And again, if they engage in vitality, we can really lead the way on premium if they do hit that vitality gold status. So again, don't forget about us here either. We're really competitive for basically any sort of premium solve on this product. Again, for top 3 risk classes, if you get into substandard risk classes, I'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about vitality as well. But really sort of a low cost death benefit protection product. It really is probably the top product in the industry. It's the #1 selling product in the industry. And it's a product I would say that's even getting better with the partnership with Annexus. And again, significant guarantees out into the early 90s here. So again, we've positioned this product against fully guaranteed products sometime. But for those older ages, we can see significant guarantees where they're already out until their 90s, which I think is very sufficient protection out past life expectancy. The other thing I'll mention here, so one carrier that was ahead of us on that last chart, again, if we were at Vitality Bronze, was Protective. They're sort of, an S&P focused IUL product. They really don't offer different sort of crediting options. I just want to compare our S&P account against theirs. Our cap is a little bit higher at 9.6. Theirs is at 9%. And we do have a 15% guaranteed multiplier on that account as well, sort of our plain vanilla account, which means basically in any scenario, we would actually offer a higher crediting if they are linked to the S&P option. So really, again, like some of those carriers that are ahead of us or were ahead of us if they didn't engage in Vitality, I think we have a much more comprehensive story with our IUL as well. Higher crediting if they do choose an S&P option. We also have those differentiated options that are available again now with the addition of the Annexus PRISM Booster account as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But really, I would say a much more comprehensive story. So again, in any scenario, we would actually offer a higher crediting potential than the protective product. The other thing I'll mention here as well, one thing with the newest version of the Protection IUL product, our fixed account is up to 4.45%, which is really one of the highest in the industry. So if you do have clients who, as they get older, maybe don't want to be as exposed to some of the index returns or just want some more stable crediting, we do offer one of the highest fixed accounts in the industry that can offer that stable crediting. And that really just speaks to our general account strength. Certainly, we think we've managed the low interest rate environment back over the last couple of years since we rolled out our IUL suite. Now, as interest rates have come up, we've also passed that back to customers. That's something we've managed really well, whether it's our IUL block, our Protection UL block. That's something that really speaks to the strength of our general account, that high fixed account rate.
Hey, Zach Gonzalo here, real quick. Just as a point of clarification, your slide says 545. You said 445. I assume that's a typo.
Sorry, it is 545. Yes.
545. That's huge. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So then one other sort of sales concept I'll talk about here as well. So just our living benefit suite as well. So I mentioned earlier, we do have long-term care, chronic illness rider, indemnity, or reimbursement. Those can really be a differentiator for us as well. We see another sort of smaller face amount example, paying out to lifetime. We're a little bit behind here on premium versus the core bridge product. But if we did have a client who is considering long-term care or chronic illness, that can be a big differentiator for us. Those riders are really well priced for the benefits you can offer with those. So again, if we added chronic illness or long-term care, now we have a leading premium, significant NLG duration. And again, you can choose whether you want the indemnity, whether you want the reimbursement model. The LTC rider is a true 7702 tax qualified rider as well. So as we see states considering enacting regulation around needing long-term care or having state income tax or taxes around long-term care benefits, like Washington State did. Our LTC rider did qualify in Washington State. That doesn't necessarily mean it will in other states, but that's something to keep in mind. We do have a true tax qualified 7702 rider. We do have the chronic illness rider as well if they want those indemnity benefits. Don't want to have the reimbursement benefits. So again, we offer that flexibility where the clients can choose, both really competitively priced in combination with an already really competitively priced product as well. So then I'll just spend a little bit talking about Vitality, which is something that differentiates us in the industry, and no other carrier really offers something similar. It really is the first to market benefit, and I'd say it can help with a number of different things. The first is obviously the policy product integration. Clients can save money on their premiums. They can also build more cash value, however they want to do it. They can stop paying premiums early if they engage. The engagement can sometimes improve the guarantees, but really that's sort of integrated with the policy engagement through the program can generate significant value for the customer. When you see the 25% on premiums, I'm just going to sort of mention it here. Typically, you'll see the bigger amounts for substandard clients. I always like to mention that because it's something to keep in mind. If you do have clients who have a rating, whether it's a pre-existing condition, something that happened in their childhood, whatever it is, Vitality can be a really compelling story because that's where you can get significant premium savings for clients who might already be doing healthy activities to manage some of those pre-existing conditions or whatever it is with their health. That's really, I think, a sort of engaging concept where they can engage in the program, save significant premium dollars on their policy. And really that sort of aligns with the benefit of Vitality. Clients who do have substandard ratings can often see significant mortality improvements from doing sort of those everyday healthy activities, which is what Vitality sort of meant to encourage. So we wanted to see sort of bigger premium discounts on those policies. So that's where you can see big premium savings. So something I like to mention as well for those substandard cases. Other part is sort of the everyday rewards for the little things they do, whether that's obviously the fitness devices, whether it be the Apple Watch or other wearable devices, the healthy food benefit. When they go to their grocery store, they can get discounts on their groceries, really significant rewards. And that's something that, again, no other carrier really offers that. It's something where it's also an engagement, sort of a topic of conversation as you're engaging new clients. If you see them wearing a wearable, obviously they're already doing some of these things. It's really something that sets us apart when you're engaging with some of those clients who do care about their health. They're already doing these things, so you can engage them on sort of those rewards and discounts. And then obviously the last goal, it's really about shared value and really about helping them live a longer, healthier, better life. That's really what we're trying to do. And that makes sense for us as a company. A life insurance carrier is really, probably the most, business side, the person that cares most about customers living longer and healthier because we want to improve sort of those mortalities. That definitely helps us as a carrier. So it really is that shared value in engaging with the customer and helping them live that longer, healthier life. The other thing I'll mention here, and then I'll turn it over to Alan to talk about some of the updates, what we've made with the Protection IUL product. Just mention that we are here to support you if Vitality ever feels overwhelming. We have a lot of content on Vitality. We talk about it a lot. And I do think it is a really unique benefit to us. But we do offer a lot of support as far as helping clients engage with the program. We offer what we call our Vitality personal consultants. That can be program support, that can be helping clients get registered and get set up with the program. It can also be sort of keeping them on track to make sure they hit their next status. So I totally acknowledge that it is something else you have to talk about as part of the sale. We do think the value is worth it, but we also acknowledge that if they need help with that, we do have a team here to help sort of address some of those concerns and help talk through the process with them because we do think the Vitality benefit is worth it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alan to talk a little bit about what it is we're doing with this partnership here with Annexus, how we're adding more value on this already sort of industry-leading product with our Protection IUL. So with that, Alan, if you want to take it away.
Appreciate it, Zach. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I think we're getting some feedback here. Is that better? No.
We can hear you okay, Alan.
You can, okay.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about, as Zach mentioned, is the whole idea of what changes. You all are pretty familiar with PIUL. You've been using it all along, but what changes happened as a result of the partnership with Annexus, and where can we lend some additional guarantees or stability to the overall product? So when we look at that, can someone enable? Oh, there we go. There's a delay. Okay. Where did we bring some additional enhancements? And it really started with creating more consistent and positive returns, as Zach mentioned. And we did that by the addition of the PRISM index with a booster. We have greater stability then in product design, and it allowed us to create more cash value, which in turn translates hopefully to greater guarantees. And we do that with some additional policy flexibility. We'll talk about some sales ideas or design ideas that may work for you, and creating some additional asset values within the contract. So when we do that, we are talking about driving performance through that innovation. And that really focuses around the index. I'm getting a huge delay. But when we compare this with an S&P capped, as Zach kind of talked about, whether you get a -5 return, a 0 return, positive 5, 10, 15%, your caps limit the type of return that you can create. And we have always been a company that is looking to eliminate or mitigate the effect of caps and expenses in a contract. And so one of the things that we are looking at, I'm getting a tremendous delay, sorry, is how can we increase the positive return frequency? When you look at the S&P over the last 33 years, about 73% of the time you have positive returns. And we set out on a mission to say, how could we improve that? And how could we bring greater frequency of positive returns? And that resulted in us taking a look at the PRISM index, which we've had on one of our accumulation IUL products, and bringing it here to an industry-leading product like PIUL. And the S&P PRISM index has been the #1 performing custom index since 2018 by Bloomberg. Bloomberg rates it the #1 performing index. And so this first-to-market strategy of utilizing a booster or an enhancement to even the returns that PRISM has been creating. And in doing that, we then have increased the frequency of positive return to over 90%. So that more than 90% of the time, when using PRISM Booster, you're going to have positive returns. Again, the whole idea here is, can we bring more stability so that we can extend out that death benefit guarantee beyond life expectancy? And that's where we are falling and trying to create more value when you talk about PIUL in the Annexus version of PIUL. So when you look at those higher returns and you look at those frequency in comparison to a straight S&P account, you see much greater value in utilizing PRISM with the booster. Substantially higher returns, which will extend out that death benefit guarantee. And that being the case, we have created a scenario where, from an illustrative and design perspective, as well as a competitive analysis perspective, we're really able to bring a little different look with no increasing premiums, maintaining that premium and cost structure within the contract. So S&P PRISM, let's talk about what is S&P PRISM. The whole goal of S&P PRISM is to smooth volatility for consistent, stable returns, to design and navigate through a variety of markets. And we do that as a result of the multi-asset class diversification. This is a multi-asset class strategy that is analyzed, weighted, and reevaluated on a daily basis at the close of business every single day. So it's very dynamic in nature. And it creates a scenario where we're able to capture the market the way the market produces returns. So one of the major differences in PRISM is the idea that we're not just simply looking at momentum to measure the market. We are using multiple indicators in order to create the value within the index. We're using momentum, market bubbles, recession, and volatility. Most indexes in the IUL space really only consider momentum in their analysis and their process of evaluating. We have expanded that, and therefore the result has been the best returning index, as indicated by Bloomberg, in the industry. That's a differentiator within this product. And so the index is created through equities, bonds, commodities, and cash. And that process of analyzing, selecting, and weighting, again, happens every day at the close of business for the next business day. Very unique in the IUL space to have an index that does that. So as we look at the returns over time, we see that even during some of the financial negative times in the market, PRISM has withstood that. You haven't seen the big drawdowns in the index. You've seen a very narrow band of returns that's been relatively consistent. That in an IUL product creates a return that's far more stable, to the point of having an average return of 5%. That's raw in the market. When you combine that with the innovation of the booster, which is a first of its kind indexing strategy, you now have a scenario where the overall returns are substantially greater. So PRISM with the booster is designed to credit additional interest with when you have up or flat markets. So the way that booster works, you have the index raw return, as we looked at a 5% average return raw. You add 4% to that return automatically, and then you apply the par rate. So you have index return plus 4% times par. It's that simple. And when you look at that across markets, you look at down markets, if you have index return plus 4% times par, you see that even in negative markets, if you add the 4%, anything 4% or better is going to get you to a 0 or positive return market. That's where that 91% positive returns comes into play. In flat markets, of course, if you have some positive return, we're adding 4% to that. And as you have true up markets, we're adding a 4% to that again, so that you get into that 6 to 9% relatively easy on a very low single-digit return. What that does internally into the contract is it allows it to extend out that death benefit guarantee. And so we're seeing death benefit guarantees getting into the 90s as a result of more consistent and greater accumulation. Because when you add that 4% and then multiply it by par, and par on this product is 115%, you see that our returns are substantially higher. Therefore, greater accumulation, longer death benefit guarantee. From a design perspective, think about designing slightly different. In the protection market space, most advisors that I talk to talk about using the guarantee ledger because you're really trying to create a scenario of what's the worst case scenario for death benefit. And the reality is, in an illustration, remember that that guaranteed ledger has an underlying assumption to it of maximum contractual allowable expense. Yet a carrier like John Hancock has never been at maximum allowable expenses in its history. The idea that it's going to go to maximum allowable expenses is not very likely. And surely if they're buying the contract today, they're not at maximum expenses. And we know that next year they won't be at maximum expenses. So already in the first 2 years, you have a scenario where that guaranteed ledger can't possibly be correct, forgetting rate of return. So one of the things that we talk about is looking at doing two different illustrations. One being at a zero rate of return, the same as a guarantee ledger, but use current expenses. So change your illustrated rate to zero and use that as one comparative. The second one, and Zach talked about that, Gonzalo asked the question about the fixed account. With a fixed account at 545, run a second illustration at the 545, the fixed account rate. And look at the difference, compare the difference between zero return, the fixed account return, and be able to talk to your clients about what would happen if the index did more than that. Look at where that goes. And you run a third illustration at illustrated rate, replicating as close as possible the indexing methodology. And I think you really create a scenario there where you're going to see that death benefit guarantee extend way out and be able to show the client a much more stable, longer lasting product that will allow them to be very comfortable. And I think you'll find when you do that, from a competitive standpoint, we actually may be at or near the top. The second element of that, of course, becomes vitality. And I hear frequently, I don't like illustrating vitality because I don't know if the client will do it. And if we're banking on those credits in order to get the premiums down, that can become a little bit of a sticky wicket. Think about illustrating vitality only 1 year of the policy. Pick your year and show them achieving gold just one time and look at what it changes within the contract. I think you'll find that the results of that will be a little surprising in terms of the crediting that goes on within the contract. We feel very comfortable with that will positively impact. I'm still getting this big delay. I apologize. I'm attempting to. So again, that strategy, if we get into a positive return, a good return in the market, you see that the crediting is substantially higher into double digits, even just a 5% return. Not talking about rates of return that get into the double digits, but we're able to get there through the use of the booster and the participation rate. Very, very effective in extending out that death benefit guarantee. And so when we look at live performance of PRISM, we go back to 2018, you see that an S&P cap, what S&P was doing during those times, those years, the last 4 years, 5 years. And when you apply PRISM with the booster, its live returns, add the booster, 115% par, you see that we are substantially ahead of traditional illustrated rates. We feel very comfortable on the results that would do on a go-forward basis. And we believe that will lend tremendous stability when you're talking about a PIUL product. So how do you get it? Again, there's 3 versions of PRISM within the product. We talked about the 4% booster option. That's 115 par on a 1-year point-to-point. We also have a straight 1-year point-to-point with no booster, 235. And you have a 2-year point-to-point with no booster at 345. Those are the 3 options within that. Now, how does that translate to actual returns? We talk about hurdle rate. Those of you that are familiar with our other products, you know that we talk a lot about what rate of return does the index have to earn raw on Wall Street, that when you apply par and or the booster, you end up at maximum illustrated rate. And the simple answer is low 2s to low 3s. That's what we need the index to earn. 2 to 3% raw, apply the booster and or the par rate, and you're going to end up at 7 or above. We're pretty comfortable in those types of returns based on the structure and stability that we've created with PRISM in PIUL. So all of you should be aware, of course, or have access to my Annexus and all of the materials. You know that there are other options in PIUL for allocations from S&P to the Barclays Index and PRISM. Our marketing materials are all listed on my Annexus. There's a tab that's New Heights. There's my Annexus. Excuse me, not New PIUL tab on John Hancock. You have the Illustrator there. You have the e-app there. And you have all of the marketing materials that are available. Feel free to utilize that resource. Of course, Agency One is there and can help you. The team there, Ed and Greg and Hervid and the team, Gonzalo, Kathy, as well as the John Hancock folks. So we're really proud of that partnership. It's been very successful up to this point. We appreciate everything that you all are doing and look forward to some good results utilizing the product. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kathy or Gonzalo or any questions we have.
Thank you, Alan. Zach, is there anything else you would like to add before I open this up for questions? If anybody has any questions, please either raise your hand or type them into the chat. But Zach, is there anything else that you would like to add at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I would just sort of tie it back to we really think we have an industry-leading product that we've just made better with this partnership with the Nexus, with the S&P PRISM, the booster account, or really all the accounts. Again, as Alan sort of alluded to, really the biggest thing on a protection-oriented IUL is being able to hit what we're illustrating, achieve those illustrated returns, make sure the death benefit is there for the client when they need it. And I think being able to get those more consistent, stable, positive returns with the PRISM booster account, with our track record of managing our IULs, is really going to drive that performance and make sure those policies are there for clients when they need them.
Thank you. We were extremely excited when this product launched because the power of the Annexus chassis with, combined with the Hancock, basic product that you're inserting the Annexus chassis into, it's really a dynamic matchup, and are pleased to be able to bring this to our advisors. Craig, Hervid, and Ed Stark are all familiar with the product and happy to help anybody answer any questions, forward any materials if you would like some additional materials. As I said, this webinar has been recorded. Zach, and Alan, either one of you, since the product was released, what sort of response have you had in the market, and what has been the most positive, and also what has been the most challenging, if you've experienced any challenges? Because we certainly don't want to make the mistakes that others might be making.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak from, I guess, I'll put on my competitive services hat. So I think some of the challenge with volatility control, managed volatility indices, has been the spike in interest rates. I think all of these essentially have some fixed income component, and that's sort of been a headwind. I think we've gotten a lot of praise, a lot of good feedback for the booster account. That can really help with that in sort of a challenging interest rate environment, because you're getting that 4% right off the top. A lot of these other types of indices that don't have that innovation, that don't have that booster, have sort of struggled. We've actually done really well with this, and as Alan sort of talked about in sort of that live performance, it's the best performing live index since its inception. So I think that's been some feedback that I personally have gotten. We've sort of innovated to help with the current interest rate environment. And then if interest rates go back down, we also have those sort of longer duration PRISM options as well, if clients want to go back into those. So I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I would just say we have seen a lot of results in the premium finance space, as crazy as that may seem, even with rates the way they've been because of the stability and the greater opportunity for cash value. We're also seeing, because it's the protection space, higher average premiums, and so bigger cases. So that's been a good eye opener for us. But we're seeing a very good flow of business right now in this product. The challenge, Kathy, maybe has been in them understanding the new index and how that affects the overall product. So it's an educational process, and that's what makes this session so valuable, I think, is gaining that different viewpoint of how it affects the overall function.
Terrific. Thank you. So, and in that regard, besides Ed, Craig, and Hervid, we can also always get Zach or Alan back on the phone with any of you to do a further deep dive if you feel that you need that. So I don't see any questions, and we are about 45 minutes in. I'm going to thank everybody for their time. I hope that you found this valuable. We are coming into fourth quarter. And as everybody knows, there is a tremendous amount of business that gets done in fourth quarter. Agency One is prepared to help you with any of your cases. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please reach out to Gonzalo or to me or to any of your case managers or to Dennis. And with that, I am going to conclude this webinar. I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. And I hope to be talking to each of you soon. So thank you. And thank you to our friends at both Annexus and John Hancock. Have
Thank
a
you
great
all.
afternoon.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
everybody. Bye-bye.